Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, your home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. In today's video, we're going to be providing an update on ThreeD Capital. We've welcomed the chairman, founder, and CEO Sheldon Inwentash back to the program to provide an update on this organization. Before we get into that though, please take a second, smash the like button guys, 100% free to do, huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comments section below if you've heard of ThreeD Capital before, if you're currently holding shares, and your thoughts on this sector in terms of VC funding moving into 2025. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we've got Sheldon Inwentash back from ThreeD Capital. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of this VC firm. Now, there's a lot going on. We were just saying before we started filming here, Sheldon, the amount of press releases and news articles since our last meeting really is quite impressive. So I wanted to go through all of that in today's presentation. But before we do, can you give us just a quick introduction to yourself and what ThreeD Capital is all about?
Sure. I've been in this business for a while, mostly focusing in my career on early stage companies, like dealing with founders, inventors, or in the case of minerals, with properties that only had potential. So I'm used to, the landscape and the positioning of things that really are early. So what does that mean? We invest at very low valuations. And then we get involved in helping to build the companies and create value added. Some people call our, ARC investing, except on a micro cap basis, and much more operating leverage towards increases in rates of return. Because if we don't get 50 times our money, or we believe that that's going to happen, we just don't get involved. And I've done this before. I did it with Pine Tree Capital. The shares went from 10 cents to $26, and I believe ThreeD is going to be bigger than that.
Just incredible. Now, I want to get into some of those details. As I mentioned, our last meeting was in April. There's been a number of key developments since then. You've got headphone updates, you've got micropayments, neuromorphic quantum computing. There's all sorts of things going on. So can you pick maybe a few of the key highlights since our last discussion to share?
Sure. I'm going to talk about something that we have not talked about before with you anyhow. But this is one of the most unique opportunities I've come across in my career. And I made the decision to invest in this in 24 hours. And I have a big background in the 80s. I worked for a major life insurance company here in Toronto, and I built two major oil companies for them. And I started off as an oil and gas analyst, and then, I built these companies. So I have a background in call it the energy space. One of the areas that we've been looking at for a few years is hydrogen. We believe that hydrogen is going to become the ultimate solution and holy grail for energy driven assets. And I mean assets, it could be plants, it could be factories, it can be cars. And hydrogen is the holy grail because it has a zero CO2 footprint. Everybody went to electric cars and they go, look at no emissions. Well, how much emissions goes into developing and mining all those metals that go into it? Nickel, copper, cobalt, lithium, massive amounts of greenhouse gases and so forth. And no one's really even addressed the issue. Where's all that metal going to come from? Because I'm involved in mining about 25% of our portfolio, I understand the logistics of that. And we've talked to GM, and we're going to go, well, how are you going to build 1 million cars in 2026? There's not enough of those minerals available. So I don't think the planners really thought that one through, but it's a good step. Hydrogen is the answer. But the problem with hydrogen, and we looked at it again for quite some time, is you synthesize hydrogen. You make it. It's man-made. You make it through, synthesizing. There's many different types of hydrogen. There's blue hydrogen, gold hydrogen, green hydrogen, white hydrogen. And it involves huge capital intensive amount of money to develop these technologies. It also involves science. So you have intellectual property and so forth. And it's just, very, very challenging. What I never realized up until 6 months ago is that natural hydrogen can be found in the ground in the same way that natural gas can be found as a hydrocarbon. And I go, really? So we went down the rabbit hole once we got introduced to this company, which was hiding in plain sight. And we looked at other projects in the world and realized, holy cow, this was discovered 12 years ago in Mali. The local village has been basically providing it for heat and energy for 12 years, but and nothing ever really happened after that. Now there's been a bit of a rush in Australia and so forth, but we got involved in a company, I would say 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, post our last phone call. And they basically are partners with the government of Quebec in Canada. And Quebec is a massive province. There's a lot of minerals in that province, so it's not something that's a far-fetched. And there's a lot of natural gas there that's in the shale, but the government won't allow fracking. So they've never been able to develop it. But the government, through a government body called INRS, has a whole team of PhDs and scientists that have been looking at the idea of natural hydrogen at the subsurface. So this obscure little company, very French Canadian in that community, connected with them and staked all this ground 3 years ago. And I go, wait a second, whoa, what is this? And the shares were like 3 cents. And I looked at it, and then I looked at all the technical data, and there's a lot of technical data here. This is extremely geologically intensive in terms of determining how is natural hydrogen actually produced subterranean. And so I go, you know what? I like the risk return on this. And that's really what our business is. So we made a big investment at 3 cents a share with a full warrant. And we didn't realize the journey of how you go and find natural hydrogen. Well, one of the big tests is at surface, they call it in the soils. What you do is you put basically a tube down 80 centimeters, and you put like a bag around it. And so hydrogen, number one, I believe on the periodic table, is the lightest gas there is, right? We know that. So where you have potentially a natural hydrogen deposit, it's probably going to seep to surface because it's so light. And that's how companies have done what they call prospecting of, because if nothing comes to surface, there's probably not any potential that it's going to be down there. So they're called sniffers. So about a month after we put up the money to do a program, they did these probes, as they call them, down. And the companies in the world that have done this, and then we're sort of reading, whoa, wait a second, who's doing what, typically come up, and it's a measurements in what's called parts per million. So many of them were 50 to 100 parts per million, a couple 100 to 200, not many beyond that, which means that probably the hydrogen's quite deep, which is going to be expensive to recover. We did these studies and they were blown away. Their numbers came in at 400 to 600 ppm on a line. Then they did another line and it came in over 1,000. Well, I got to tell you, the inbound people that have called this company, they're sovereign wealth funds, Japanese multi-conglomerates, you know all the names, and they all basically called and they educated us on what they think we have. So even though our scientists say, wow, I think you guys have made a major hydrogen discovery here. And by the way, I'm driving 5 hours tomorrow to the site. We're going to live stream all the testing that they did. So we're going to publish it and have the scientists explain everything. So the long story short is we believe our initial testing area, and by the way, we own 250 square kilometers on one property and 100 square kilometers on another. We believe we have 95% of all the potential hydrogen-bearing rocks that are in the province of Quebec. And one thing great about province of Quebec is location, location, location. Half of Canada's population is in Quebec and Ontario. The northeastern seaboard of the US is probably about 100 million people. And you have waterways to go to Europe. So transportation is huge. Well, the reason why I say this is probably the most amazing project that I have ever come across on an NPV standpoint, a net present value, is when hydrogen is created, it basically happens subsurface, and the certain type of rocks heat up water, which is always water underground, and it liberates the hydrogen. And the hydrogen then, has pressure, and that's what comes to surface. Well, in a natural gas environment, if you take out the natural gas or the oil in situ, eventually you take it all out, and that's it. Hydrogen, when you take it out, it replenishes. So it never, ever gets fully utilized. So I'm going, whoa, okay. So we now believe that we have the massive tiger by the tail. Well, since we've had our discovery, Bill Gates has come out and said him and Bezos have put $300 million into company exploring for natural hydrogen in Minnesota. He says that is the coming energy game, forget everything else. Australian government said last week they're putting 50 billion into natural hydrogen by 2050, and they're going to encourage, they want to be the biggest exporter of natural hydrogen. On the weekend, the Saudi Arabian government announced a 600 million ton a year hydrogen plant to convert. So you can convert natural hydrogen into ammonia, you can convert it into methanol, and you can use it for filling up cars. And hydrogen stations are starting to pick up. Finally, Musk, who was anti-hydrogen, just announced hydrogen vehicle for Tesla in 2026. Plus, you're going to hear of pipelines being built between Scotland, and Ireland for natural hydrogen. So this we're caught in the middle of something that we believe is a massive tiger by the tail. And the thing about hydrogen that we believe is potential, and I'm not saying it's there, but I'm going to find out this week, and so will everybody else. The technical team, they're all PhDs. This is all scientific, and this is the government of Quebec. This isn't, some guy we're hiring and going, look what we have. No. This is extremely technical. We're going to test of whether or not at surface with over 1,000 ppms, we can capture that hydrogen. We know it's 95% pure, but if we can capture it at surface, then we believe that we can direct ship it. And that is probably going to happen through trucking at the beginning. And, in Vancouver, I believe there's hydrogen stations. It's something like $14 a kilogram. They don't measure in liters. And you get a typical tank would be the same as an electric car or a natural gas tank. In California, it's $40 a kilogram because they want to be so green, they're forcing everybody to try to go to hydrogen. And in addition, the carbon credit that you get are off the scale. So I'm excited about all my children, micropayments, believe it, quantum computing, hypercycle, and so forth. But this is new. The name of the company is called Quebec Innovative Materials. Its stock symbol is QIMC. But we have published press releases on it, as well as there are a lot of technical reports on site. But I believe I've never seen today, another 10 articles came out on natural hydrogen. And they call it also white hydrogen. So forget about spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to synthesize synthetically man-made hydrogen, the Earth is giving it to you. The key is you have to be close to population centers because transportation is a factor, and then your infrastructure. But we're being approached by infrastructure partners that have already said, we'd like to get into your storage, maybe your upgrade, if you want to upgrade it to ammonia, all the other ammonia being produced, and it's a big price for ammonia now, is for fertilizer. We'd like to get involved in that, and then we'd want to get involved in your transportation and so forth, and offtake agreements. So the world is coming to us, and this was a stumble upon. Early ground floor, I took a shot, but I'm massively encouraged by all the data beyond anything that we ever thought we would have. And I think it's the story of the day. And I really say that very strongly. Let everybody do their own work. But if you start Googling the hydrogen articles on a daily basis, you'll realize it has the sponsorships of every country in the world as the future of, clean energy.
Incredible. I can tell how excited you are, and it's awesome to hear a hydrogen, because we talk a lot about mining. Obviously, you talk about Quebec as a leading jurisdiction in the world, already some of the best infrastructure for mining and workforce there globally. We've heard a lot about EV vehicles and lithium and things like that, but you bring up such a great point about how intense it is to get those battery materials or lithium, cobalt, nickel out of the ground in the first place. So hydrogen offering a great solution. And as you say, Mother Nature really bringing it to your doorstep. Now, I'm curious to get some of the details about the investment, the deal yourself. So you guys said you approached this company, you got in at 3 cents. That entailed one warrant as well. Can you give us some details about the size and the type of investment that was made here?
Yeah, it wasn't, a great deal of money. It might have been a couple $100,000. I can't remember. But when the company announced progress and hit milestones, 3D continued to buy. So we've increased our position substantially because it's been de-risked. And the potential here is blue sky, blue ocean. So we made a modest initial investment, and then as the results continued to be encouraging, we added to our position.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned all of your children there, all of your investments. You guys have a very diverse portfolio. So I want to give you the opportunity to talk about any other standouts there. And then I also understand you're in the process of a share buyback or looking at that. So another aspect that's super interesting to the investment community.
Sure. Anyway, there's so many things going on right now. We've talked about micropayments in the past. That is heating up like big time. We're launching, as we've mentioned before, with Google and then two major Canadian banks, CIBC and RBC. Well, another 800-pound gorilla has just given us a bear hug and believe that micropayments is going to disrupt many, many business models where you don't have to have subscriptions. You don't have to have, you can just basically pay for your consumption. It's extremely interesting what's going on there. And the launch is sort of happening in the fourth quarter of this year. It's, I would say since the last time we spoke, it sort of got pushed back a bit because more and more companies are approaching them. So there's more partnership deals. And, I thought it would have been further ahead. So, but nothing's changed. It's just a locomotive that just has to start to get it to accelerate. We're also very excited about Hypercycle. It's really making a lot of progress. I think it will be the new year before it launches. Neurable, which is Neuralink's competitor, if you will, I believe is launching in October next month. We ordered headphones, so we expect to receive them. And so I can be, one of, it's not their clinical trial because they've already had like thousands and thousands of people using it, and it works. But I'm very excited about using it. We made an investment in a quantum computing software company, not hardware, which we think is game changing, called Dynex, Dynex. So we've taken a position in the token, we expect really just disruptive performance by that company. There's lots going on. Our smart city company for AI has just got the city of Vancouver. They're getting more and more where they're managing sewage and water for smart cities. So that's extremely exciting. We have a couple very interesting things that we're going to announce here in the next 60 days that's going to show real further game-changing technology that we're very excited upon. Avicana, we believe, is going to be a tiger. So undervalued. Their numbers, quarterly numbers, are great. And you know what? I think they're going to be the dominant medical cannabis company in the world. So we have a lot of underappreciated and undervalued companies because they're in this sort of transition to commerciality, or the hockey stick, as we call it in Canada, of growth is about to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard that analogy before. Now, I also heard or saw press releases related to share buyback thinking at the company. Can you give some details there?
Sure. And it's timely because today we restarted our share buyback. We had to pause because once every year we have to renew it. And to renew the share buyback, we have to go to regulators. They take their time. They got to approve it. Then we have to put an announcement. Then we have to wait a week. So we just started reinitiating our share buyback. We bought back 2 million shares last year, and which is about 5% of the company. And we've just started to buy again. We're limited how much we can buy on a daily basis. I think 25% of the outstanding shares on any particular day. But we reinstated that today.
Excellent and great timing there. So I wanted to ask about upcoming catalysts. I feel like you did a pretty good job of showing what's on the roadmap there. You mentioned a couple of key updates in the next 60 days. So I'll give you the microphone back, Sheldon, for any closing thoughts or final information for the viewers today.
I'd say that stay tuned because we're going to have many things at once that are going to, bombard us in a positive way, positive milestones. We don't want to put out news unless it's meaningful and real. And so sometimes we go quiet and people think, well, is that good news, bad news? When you get involved in building companies from the ground up, things take time. And so, but the catalysts are coming. The hydrogen, stay tuned for this coming week here. Whatever, if we can actually show we can capture hydrogen at surface and direct ship it, the NPV numbers, will be unimaginatory. But we will update people as it occurs. So I'd say that that's the most fresh catalyst that came in out of the blue, but that's the nature of the business that we're in. We never know when we're going to stumble on something great. And the key is you got to act on it.
You got to act on it and you got to be looking for it. And every once in a while you find a diamond in the rough like that. We'll leave the link to your corporate website below as well so people can go in, stay up to date on these press releases. If you have any questions for ThreeD Capital or the team here about these investments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you're still watching the video at this point, you guys hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. It helps get the content to other people who may find value or interest. Thanks so much for your time today, Sheldon. Very insightful as always. We look forward to continuing this story and we look forward to having you back soon. Talk to you then.